Welcome to Celestial Zodiac. Today we're diving deep into one of the most talked about and often misunderstood phenomena in astrology: Mercury retrograde. If you've ever experienced communication breakdowns, travel delays, technology glitches, or sudden resurfacing of people from the past, chances are Mercury was retrograde at the time. But Mercury retrograde isn't here just to create chaos. It has a deeper purpose, one that invites reflection, review, and realignment. Astronomically, Mercury retrograde is an optical illusion. From Earth's perspective, Mercury appears to move backward in the sky due to the difference in orbital speeds between Earth and Mercury. Astrologically, this apparent reversal symbolizes a shift inward, a pause in forward momentum that redirects attention toward reflection and reassessment. Mercury governs far more than just communication. It rules the mind itself, how we think, process information, interpret experiences, and narrate reality to ourselves. It governs language, speech, writing, listening, and all forms of exchange, from casual conversations to contracts and negotiations. Mercury also rules learning, memory, problem-solving, and the way we absorb and organize knowledge. Beyond the mind and communication, Mercury governs movement and coordination, short-distance travel, daily schedules, timing, logistics, and the systems we rely on to stay organized. It rules commerce and transactions, including buying, selling, paperwork, and the fine print we often overlook. In the modern world, Mercury also governs technology and information networks. Phones, computers, messaging platforms, navigation systems, and digital tools that move data from one place to another. When Mercury goes retrograde, these systems don't break down at random. They slow, misfire, or repeat patterns because they're being reviewed rather than pushed forward. Conversations loop back. Plans require revision. Technology glitches reveal weak points. Old information resurfaces because something was missed or misunderstood the first time. Mercury retrograde isn't here to punish. It's here to expose how we think, communicate, and move through daily life so we can realign those systems with greater awareness. During Mercury retrograde, the energy becomes introspective rather than outwardly productive. This is why plans often stall, messages get misinterpreted, and devices fail at the worst possible moments. The universe isn't saying don't move forward, it's saying pause and check your alignment. This is a cycle meant for reviewing, revising, reconnecting, and rethinking, rather than initiating brand new long-term commitments. Mercury retrograde also has a way of bringing the past back into the present. Old conversations resurface, unresolved issues demand closure, and people you haven't thought about in years may suddenly reappear. This is especially true because Mercury rules memory and mental processing. What hasn't been mentally or emotionally resolved often returns during these periods, asking for a different outcome this time. Emotionally and psychologically, Mercury retrograde can feel disorienting in ways that are subtle at first and then increasingly noticeable. The mind doesn't move forward in a straight line during this cycle. It circles. Thoughts loop back on themselves. Conversations replay in your head, not because you're stuck, but because your psyche is trying to extract meaning that was missed the first time. You may find yourself second-guessing decisions, questioning assumptions, or realizing that something you believed you understood was built on incomplete information. This isn't a failure of judgment. It's awareness sharpening through reflection. Mercury retrograde tends to activate the inner narrator, the voice that reviews, edits, and reprocesses experiences. People often become more introspective, more aware of patterns in their thinking, and more sensitive to tone, subtext, and emotional nuance in communication. This heightened awareness can feel uncomfortable, especially for those who prefer certainty or quick resolution. Mentally, it can create restlessness or mental fatigue, not because the mind is malfunctioning, but because it's being asked to slow down and observe itself in motion. Psychologically, Mercury retrograde often exposes unconscious scripts, habitual ways of thinking, speaking, and responding that normally operate in the background. You may notice recurring themes in your thoughts, old memories surfacing without warning, or emotional reactions that feel disproportionate to the situation at hand. These moments aren't random. They reveal unresolved experiences, unfinished conversations, or beliefs that were never consciously examined. Mercury retrograde brings these mental and emotional threads back into awareness so they can be understood rather than repeated. Emotionally, this period can heighten sensitivity. People may feel misunderstood more easily or become more reactive to perceived slights even when none were intended. Communication feels heavier because emotions are closer to the surface. At the same time, this sensitivity creates an opportunity for emotional honesty. Mercury retrograde favors reflection over expression, listening over explaining, and understanding over winning an argument. When emotions rise during this cycle, they are often pointing to something deeper that needs acknowledgement rather than immediate resolution. On a deeper level, Mercury retrograde can temporarily disrupt our sense of mental control. We're used to relying on logic to navigate life, but during retrograde periods, logic alone doesn't always provide clarity. Intuition, memory, and emotional intelligence become equally important tools. This shift can feel destabilizing at first, but it ultimately leads to a more integrated understanding of how thoughts and emotions work together. Mercury retrograde strips away mental shortcuts and forces clarity through conscious reflection, teaching us that insight doesn't always come from moving faster. It comes from looking closer. Now, how Mercury retrograde manifests depends heavily on the zodiac sign it occurs in, because each sign filters Mercury's energy differently. When Mercury retrogrades in Aries, communication becomes impulsive and reactive. People may speak before thinking, arguments can ignite quickly, and frustration rises when progress feels blocked. This retrograde asks for patience, conscious speech, and strategic restraint rather than immediate action. In Taurus, Mercury retrograde slows decision-making around money, values, and security. Financial plans may need revision, and stubborn thinking can become a challenge. This is a time to reassess priorities and question whether comfort is being confused with growth. When Mercury retrogrades in Gemini, its home sign, mental overstimulation is common. Miscommunications multiply, schedules overlap, and information overload sets in. This retrograde emphasizes listening over talking and clarity over speed. In Cancer, Mercury retrograde affects emotional communication. Conversations may feel sensitive, nostalgic, or emotionally charged. Family issues, past memories, and unresolved emotional patterns resurface, asking for compassion and emotional honesty. When Mercury retrogrades in Leo, expression and creativity are impacted. Misunderstandings around recognition, pride, or personal identity may arise. This retrograde asks you to reconsider how you seek validation and whether your voice aligns with your authentic self. In Virgo, another Mercury-ruled sign, perfectionism intensifies. Overanalyzing details can lead to stress, especially around work, health, or daily routines. This retrograde encourages flexibility and reminds you that progress doesn't require flawlessness. When Mercury retrogrades in Libra, relationships and agreements are tested. Miscommunications in partnerships may surface, Old relationship dynamics resurface, and balance feels harder to maintain. This retrograde asks for fairness, clear boundaries, and honest dialogue. In Scorpio, Mercury retrograde brings deep psychological insight. Secrets may emerge, trust issues resurface, and conversations can feel intense or probing. This is a powerful time for inner truth-seeking, shadow work, and emotional transformation. When Mercury retrogrades in Sagittarius, belief systems and big-picture thinking are questioned. Misunderstandings around education, travel, or philosophy may arise. This retrograde encourages humility, recognizing that truth evolves and perspectives can change. In Capricorn, Mercury retrograde impacts authority, responsibility, and long-term goals. Career plans may need adjustment, and communication with authority figures can feel strained. This is a time to reassess ambition and redefine success. When Mercury retrogrades in Aquarius, innovation and social dynamics are affected. Technology glitches increase, group miscommunications arise, and future plans may need rethinking. This retrograde asks for adaptability and reconsideration of long-term visions. In Pisces, Mercury retrograde blurs boundaries between logic and intuition. Confusion can arise, but so can profound insight. Dreams intensify, intuition sharpens, and clarity comes through reflection rather than rational analysis. Before we look at how Mercury retrograde moves through the 12 houses, it's important to understand what the houses represent in astrology. While zodiac signs describe personality traits and energetic expression, the houses describe areas of life, the stages, environments, and experiences where planetary energy shows up. When Mercury retrogrades through a particular house, that area of life becomes the focal point for review, reflection, and mental recalibration. This is where communication slows down, patterns repeat, and awareness deepens through lived experience rather than abstract thought. When Mercury retrogrades in the first house, the focus turns inward toward identity, self-expression, and how you communicate your presence to the world. You may become more self-aware of how others perceive you, or notice that your words don't land the way you intend. This is a period of rethinking how you present yourself rather than trying to redefine who you are. In the second house, Mercury retrograde highlights money, personal values, and self-worth. Financial conversations may need revisiting, budgets may require adjustment, and deeper questions about what you truly value can surface. Psychologically, this retrograde asks whether your sense of security is tied to material stability or internal confidence. When Mercury retrogrades in the third house, communication becomes a central theme in everyday life. Misunderstandings with siblings, neighbors, or co-workers may arise, and mental overstimulation can increase. This is a powerful time to revisit old ideas, rewrite plans, or recognize habitual thinking patterns that shape how you interpret the world. In the fourth house, Mercury retrograde draws attention to home, family, and emotional foundations. Conversations from the past may resurface, especially around family dynamics or childhood experiences. Emotionally, this retrograde invites reflection on where you feel safe, rooted, and understood. When Mercury retrogrades in the fifth house, creativity, romance, and self-expression slow down for review. Old passions, creative projects, or romantic themes may reappear, asking to be refined rather than revived exactly as they were. This period emphasizes authentic joy over external validation. In the sixth house, Mercury retrograde affects daily routines, work habits, and health patterns. You may need to reassess how you manage time, energy, and responsibilities. Psychologically, this retrograde highlights the connection between mental stress and physical well-being. When Mercury retrogrades in the 7th house, relationships and partnerships come under review. Communication with others may feel strained or repetitive as unresolved issues resurface. This retrograde asks for clarity, fairness, and deeper understanding in how you relate to others. In the 8th house, Mercury retrograde brings attention to shared resources, emotional intimacy, and psychological depth. Conversations around trust, finances, or vulnerability may resurface. This is a powerful period for uncovering hidden motivations and transforming emotional patterns. When Mercury retrogrades in the 9th house, belief systems, education, and long-term perspectives are questioned. Plans involving travel, learning, or personal philosophy may need adjustment. Mentally, this retrograde challenges rigid thinking and encourages intellectual humility. In the 10th house, Mercury retrograde affects career, public image, and long-term goals. Professional conversations may stall or require revision, and past career themes can resurface. This is a time to reassess your definition of success and alignment with authority. When Mercury retrogrades in the 11th house, friendships, networks, and future aspirations are highlighted. Miscommunications within groups may occur, but they reveal deeper questions about belonging and shared values. This retrograde invites clarity around which goals and connections truly support your growth. In the 12th house, Mercury retrograde operates beneath the surface of conscious awareness. Thoughts turn inward, dreams intensify, and subconscious patterns become more noticeable. This is a deeply introspective period that favors reflection, spiritual insight, and mental rest over external action. To conclude, Mercury retrograde isn't something to fear. It's something to work with. When we resist it, chaos feels louder. When we cooperate with it, clarity follows. This cycle reminds us that forward motion isn't always linear, and sometimes the most powerful growth happens when we slow down, look back, and consciously choose differently. Mercury retrograde doesn't stop your life. It recalibrates it. If you found this video helpful, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. New videos in this series are coming soon, so subscribing helps you stay up to date. Thanks for being here on Celestial Zodiac, and I'll see you in the next video.